Professors Luis Fernando Niño Vázquez, Alfonso Meléndez, Fabio Augusto González Osorio. I represent my support for the Finance Report mini project in network science to light soccer players in the World Cup France 1998, presented by David Valero. Summary. The networks compiled by Lothar Campbell describes the 32 soccer teams that participated in the 1988 World Cup in Paris. National team players often have contracts in the other countries. This constitutes a players' market where national teams export players to other countries. Members of the 22 teams had a contracts in a total of 35 countries. The two-mode relation is ARC IJ players I has a contract in country J, counting which team exports how many players to which country can be described with a valued asymmetric graph. And the graph is very asymmetric. Some countries only export players, some countries are all importers, centers, and authorities. Indirect networks, we can normally identify two types of important vertices, hubs and authorities. A vertex is a good center if it points to many good authorities, and it is good authority if many good centers point to it. The centers and authorities are related to the centrality of the engine vector. Soccer teams in the biggest and most successful languages, such as the English Premier League or the Spanish League, tend to have a more centralized structure compared to smaller, less successful languages. This means that the teams to the big languages have more connections with the other teams, which can contribute to their success. Objectives, scope of the project. The main objective in this study is to use the network science to analyze the structure and properties of the soccer team's networks. This includes measurements connected between computers, identify partners and structures in the network, and determine the importance of each computer in the network using measures of centrality. The scope of this project is to try to replicate the study carried out in network science applied to soccer players in the 1988 World Cup in France. Using the data obtained by the article and using tools with GEPI, we will verify the results obtained by Lothar Campbell. The network complies by Lothar Campbell describes the 32 soccer teams that participated in the 1988 World Cup in Paris. National teams players often have contracts in other countries. This constitutes a players' market where national teams export players to another countries. Members of the 32 teams had contracts in a total of 35 countries. The two models relation is ARC IJ. Player I has a contract with country J. Country which team exports how many players to which country can be described with a value asymmetric graph. The graph is very asymmetric. Some countries only export players, some countries are only importers, centers and authorities. In direct networks, we can normally identify two types of important vertices, hubs and authorities. A vertex is a good center if a point to many good authorities is a good authority if a many good centers point to do it. The centers and authorities are related to centrally if the engine vector. Dataset, degree centrality. There are countries that are only exporters, Yugoslavia, Romania, Norway, Nigeria. There are countries that are only importers, Spain, France, UK, Greece, Britain, Spain imports players from the largest numbers of the different countries, 18, followed by Italy and Germany importing from 16 countries. Nigeria exports players to the most different countries, 10. Hubs and authorities. The authorities are countries that have good languages. The hubs are countries that have good players. Hubs: Yugoslavia, Norway, Argentina, Romania, Croatia, Denmark. Yugoslavia, point 41, and Norway, point 38, are much more important hubs than the others. Argentina, point 28. Hubs and authorities. The Netherlands, Scotland, Brazil, Austria. Authorities: Spain, point 58, Grand Britain, point 54, Italy, point 45, Germany, point 31, France, point 16, Turkey, point 16. The countries are written in descending order according to the weights of the center's authorities. Implemented network science approach. The network approach implemented is the analysis of the complex networks. In the case of the study, if the soccer team networks, the nodes are the teams and the connection are the games played between teams. The network of the soccer teams is represented as an indirect graph, where each node represents teams and each link represents a game played between two teams. To analyze the soccer team network, various network analysis tools to measure were used, such as degree centrally measure, modality, and connectivity. These measurements allow you identify which computers are most important on the network, how many computers are grouped into communities of groups, and how they relate to each other. Conclusions. The soccer team's network is a complex network that can be studied using network analytics tools. The resources used measures of the centrality, modularity, and connectivity to analyze the structure of the network and discover interesting partners. Soccer teams in the biggest and the most successful languages, such as the English Premier League or the Spain League, tend to have a more centralized structure compared to smaller, less successful languages. This means that big languages teams have a more connections to other teams which can contribute to their success. Network analysis can be used to predict the final positions of the teams in the soccer league. The resources, development, and the model that uses measures of the centrality and the modularity to predict which teams can be most successful in the languages. This model turned out to be more accurate to another models that use previous team performance data participated in the 1988 World Cup in France. Article source data collected by Lothar Campbell, October 5, 1999, transformed into PAGEC format by B. Batelli, February 9, 2001. Reference Darkonston Seminar Link Analysis and Visualizations. Darkonston 1 to 6 July 2001. The networks compiled by Lothar Campbell describes the 32 soccer teams that participated in the 1988 World Cup in France.